Right. Okay. So these are just things. Let's have a look. Okay, these are things I've noticed. Little patterns and things. Um, so in allistic or NT culture, um, just a couple of patterns, maybe 3 or 4 or 5, just bullet points. The first one would be never having to explain the neurotype versus the um, neurodiverse neurotype. So never having to explain itself as NT culture, like never having to explain why the people in that culture like discussing, for example, the sport result or small talk or gossip or the weather or etc. So it's understandable that certain if NTs are 90% of the population on average in general, then it makes sense that things will cater to that percentage. It can just be very difficult if you're not in that percentage. So the reverse is never having to explain itself. Um, so that the first bullet point would just be that NT culture never has to explain itself. For example, why are you listening to pop music? Why are you know, discussing the football score? Why are you, etc. Small talk. The sort of general stuff. NT culture would never really have to explain itself. Um, the other thing would be, um, yeah, the 90% rule, which just is what it is. It's just the way things happen, I guess, in the world. It's no one's fault. It's just that the structure falls that NTs are 90% in general, and so things cater to that ratio. The other pattern I've noticed nowadays is that things cater much more to NT parents of autistic people than the actual people who have the actual condition. And then I've also noticed a pattern of people within this pattern, people running services for ND or autistic people that are NT, which I find a bit odd because, in my opinion, generally the people with the condition would know most about the condition because they live with it 24/7. So I find it very odd that at the top management level, it tends to be NTs running the ND and autistic services, which I find strange. The other thing would also be what may be termed cultural appropriation within TV and media. Again, a lot of the programming and shows are directed and produced by NTs from the top down, but they're about autistics. So it's a bit strange again. Why aren't the people with the condition running the help services or making the programming or the shows? It's very I, I don't really get this, other than the power dynamic again of the 90% rule. But it's very strange that NTs are sort of making programs about autism and making help services, which is great, fantastic. But without listening to the people that actually live with it on a sort of permanent basis, I find it very strange. Um, the other one, yeah, the other bullet point would be in NT culture an assumption that everyone in the world is NT, which I don't really get now. Some people have told me that this is called predictive programming, but it's again, maybe it's a survival mechanism at the psychological level. I don't know. Yeah, I don't know, but assuming that everyone is that is, I find it confusing. So I'm not really sure what that one's about, but it is what it is. I suppose. The next point would be probably the biggest point after the assuming everyone is NT within NT culture would be the identity theft, which is pretending to be autistic if someone is allistic or NT for who knows what reason, but it's not good because then people can't advocate for themselves because the system then is diluted. You see, and if it's diluted too much, then it creates meaninglessness within that within the advocacy system or system of advocacy. So it's yeah, probably the biggest danger is the identity theft. I would say. Again, for whatever reason it happens, I don't know, but it means that the people that need the help can't advocate for themselves because their disability or culture is diluted. Then you see, or oversaturates the help system or systems of infrastructure within ASC. So yeah, but yeah, those are just bullet points. I was wondering why the programming and the help services are run by NTs at the top level of management, and again the identity theft issue for whatever reason it happens, and then the thing of again catering to NT parents, which again I understand because of the 90% rule. Again, it makes sense in any system that things will cater to that if that's the majority number, but it will be helpful to listen to both. Both sides have very valid issues, but again, because so things in NT culture cater more for allistic parents than for the people with the condition. So that's a strange sort of thing. So those are sort of the three things: is like allistic parents, identity theft, and then sort of the top levels of management within services being run by NT individuals, which is what it is. But I don't really understand how it comes about, to be honest.